It was an early fall Sunday afternoon. I decided to go work at school because I wanted to get ahead a little bit. My husband was going to mow the lawn and our only child left at home, Isabel, was doing homework. I was tooling along at school, just about ready to leave, when I got a phone call from my neighbor. "Beth, Tim fell out of a tree. The paramedics are here. Can you meet us at the hospital?" I could hear Tim moaning in pain in the background. My first question was, "Can he move his arms and legs?" Thank the Lord he could. I slammed my laptop closed, jammed it in my bag, and ran out the door. I drove 80 to 85 miles per hour, 25 miles back home, all the way praying that his injuries would not be too severe. I got to the hospital and was met by friends and our daughter. We hugged and cried. She told me she wasn't able to see him yet. Our neighbors were there, and I found out that he had been trying to cut a branch that had fallen in a storm. He had fallen from 20-plus feet up. Isabel had found him when she saw our elderly neighbor, who can barely walk, running down the driveway. She screamed, "Call 911! Call 911!" The neighbors came running and held his head until the ambulance got there. When I finally got to go in and see him, he had dirt all over his face. He was in a cervical collar and had IVs in his arms. They had the pain somewhat controlled, and he had been through X-ray and CT scans. He just kept saying, "I'm sorry." The nurse in the ER was fantastic. I believe her name was Emily. They were waiting for the results of all the scans. Tim was awake and actually joking with the nurses. The tough thing for me was to call our other daughter and son, who were away at college, to tell them what had happened. Our daughter Megan is at Concordia, and she took it really hard. She decided to come home right away. Our son Nate is at school in Colorado. It was really tough for him. I went back into the ER with Tim, and Emily was taking good care of him. Tim said, "I wish they would take this collar off. My neck doesn't hurt, just my thoracic spine." Emily gave me a look. It wasn't a good one. A few minutes later, the ER doctor came in to tell us what they had found. Tim had broken 5 vertebrae, 1 rib, had a partially collapsed lung, and the worst, a hangman's fracture. His C2 vertebrae was broken. He was lucky to be alive and still able to move all of his limbs. The doctor told us he had to be airlifted to St. Cloud Hospital because that's where the neurologists are, and they didn't want to risk the bumpy ride. Emotions. Overwhelming emotions. They took Tim, and then Isabel and I went home to wait for Megan and pack some things. I wandered around the house aimlessly, trying to think of what I needed. Megan got home. More emotions. Friends heard the news and came by, prayed with us, and helped me to get my head on straight. I had talked to our son again, and many family members and friends. We finally got on the road. I was worried about Nate. He hadn't sounded very good. I called my mom and sister to have them touch base with him. We drove the hour to St. Cloud and were met by Isabel's piano teacher, who had been nearby and gone to the hospital. How amazing was that? She helped us find the emergency room. Tim was very happy on his pain medication and talking and joking with the nurses. They decided he would not need surgery and they would brace him and let him heal. We were thrilled. I called Nate and put him on speaker so Tim could talk. He started cracking jokes, which was great because it made Nate laugh. He said, "I love it. Dad's loopy." He got moved to a room, and the girls and I found a hotel. When we returned the next morning, the seriousness of the whole incident was apparent. Tim was in an amazing amount of pain. They moved him to yet another room, but this one was small and didn't have a chair. Because Tim is a physical therapist, he knows a thing or two about pain management and what he needed. It was hard to even get ice to help with the pain. Tim's boss, Summer, visited, and they talked about an in-service they had attended 2 weeks prior, where they had learned about a new back brace that was not a turtle shell. It was less restrictive and way more comfortable. She called Tony the rep who had showed them the brace. Amazingly, Tony brought a brace that evening. What a blessing. Tim felt relief as soon as they put it on. The nurses and aides were very curious about this new brace and came in to look and ask about it. Friends also came from Alexandria that evening to visit and to cheer us up and bring us some goodies to munch on. Tim was able to be in a wheelchair and wander down the hall for a bit. When they left, they took the girls home with them so that they could go back to school. There was nothing they could do at the hospital. Tim's body just needed to begin the healing process. He was discharged 3 days later. We were both so excited to be able to go home, knowing that it was going to be a long road, but it could have been so much worse. Friends organized a lift chair and other medical aids for our home. Again, God's provision for Tim's healing. The dogs were really excited to see Tim home. Isabel was convinced that they knew something was wrong when it happened. So the long days of healing began. We went to the doctor in November to check on things. They took an x-ray to make sure that his alignment was good. It was too soon to check to see if the bones were healing with a CT scan. The doctor said, "Just keep going. You need time to heal." When he went back to the doctor in December, he was met with bad news. "Your neck is not healing. You need surgery." This was devastating because we were all thinking that Tim would be able to return to work soon and all would be well. He was scheduled for surgery on the morning of December 24th, Christmas Eve. All 3 of our children were home for Christmas, so we decided to do something fun and went on a trip to the Chanhassen Dinner Theater as a pre-Christmas celebration. It turned out to be the night before Tim's surgery. Christmas Eve morning arrived and we were at the hospital. Tim wanted to get the surgery over with so his healing could continue. They were going to put 2 screws in his C2 vertebrae to keep it together. The surgery was a success, and we had a little Christmas Eve celebration in the hospital. We goofed around with the nurses, ice and rubber gloves strategically placed around Tim's neck. He pushed himself to get up and walk. There was hope of going home on Christmas Day, and Tim really wanted to go home. We made it. After the surgery, the doctor had warned me that he had to go through a lot of muscles to get to the vertebrae, and that Tim would be in a lot of pain from that. His scar is about 7 inches long down the back of his head. The pain hit after we got home. Tons of pain. It was a setback because it was nearly as bad as the original pain from the fall. The blessing was that it went away a lot quicker than the original pain. The healing journey continued into the new year. Tim went to the gym every day and tried to build his stamina and endurance. His goal was to go on a trip to France with our daughter at the end of February. We had planned this trip for over a year, and he didn't want to miss it. He also wanted to go back to work. He was bored. We made it to France. La Tour Eiffel, the Louvre, Bordeaux, and Nice. He was stopped numerous times by little old French ladies concerned for him. We even found a street called the Broken Neck Street. We returned from our trip, and Tim went back to work on March 10th, our son's birthday. We are grateful for God's provision, financial, physical, and emotional through this entire process. For me, it's been a long school year. I'm ready for a break.